Okay, welcome back to this next lesson. So what I want to do is to display our quotation using or quotes using a template. So let's quickly review the display quotation uh, method that does that. So we noticed that we were limiting to 5, okay, and let's look at we were returning the rows, and if we had error we simply returned. While you are iterating over our result set, if there were any rows, we issue the return the error message and then we return. If we get to here, it means we have the quotes and we append them and we put them into a slice. And finally, we check to see if there are any errors that were generated during this iteration, right? And if they were, then we would return a error message. Okay, so, and of course you would leave the handler function / method. And then if everything went okay, on line 112 we simply iterated over the slice and use the fprintf function to simply display the text of the quotes. Okay, so of course the text didn't really look that appealing. So what I want to do now is to create a template, to use a template so that the quotes can be displayed using HTML. All right, so I went ahead and I created this template, show page.tmpl. Okay, and it simply has our title like before, quote box. It has quote box as a header, and it has the quotes as a smaller header. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the template, and I'm going to say if dot. So that simply means that if our data that is passed in is not empty, then I want to do all of this. Otherwise, that's where the else comes in. I will simply say nothing to see here, move along. Okay, and then of course I will end. So this end matches up with this if. Okay, so assuming this passes and we have quotes in our quotes slice, then I want to simply create an unordered list whereby I'll have each quote listed. And so I'm going to use my li. Okay, again, this is not something new to you. And since we know that since we know that it's a slice of quotations, and we know that a quotation, okay, we know that a quotation has these fields, okay, and notice we made them capital letters because we want to be able to see them in our template. And so all we need is the quote field and the author name field. That's all we need. So if I come down to my handler, my template, you'll see that I only ask for the quote, so that quote, and then underneath I'm going to simply say that author underscore name, and that's it. So what I want to see is a list of the quotes followed by the author name, and to keep doing that until all the quotes have been exhausted. Now notice to do that we use the range keyword for the template, and as you know, range simply means to loop. So I want us to range over what is sent in. So I want us to range over the slice. Okay, so the dot in a sense represents your slice. And so I'm going to iterate over the slice until I get all the quotes displayed on our page. And that's it. Okay, so this will be given to you, so no need to type it up. Okay, so the part we need to do now is actually writing the code. And again, this should not be new because all we'll be doing is using templates. So we don't need this anymore, right? We don't need this anymore. And so here we will simply display the quotes using a template. Okay, so as you know, we will use the template package. So template that parse files. We need to provide the file of the name of the template, and as you know, it's in dot forward slash UI forward slash HTML forward slash what's the name? Show underscore page dot tmpl. Okay, so that's our template. Go will go ahead and generate that template for us. And then of course, since it returns an error message, we need to check that error message. Now, if it is an error, then it means we can't process and we can't display the page. So our best bet is to simply tell the user that there was an internal server error. And since we have the code for that already, I'm just gonna put that down there. Okay. So if there was an error, then we will just display an internal server error message to the user. All right, so let's assume that assuming there was no error, it means that we will be able to execute our template. And so we're going to say error is the template that execute. And of course, we need to pass in the response writer, which is W. And of course, we need to pass in any data. Since our data is the slice of quotations, then we know that we should pass in quotes. All right, great. So of course, the execute function will return an error if there are any errors, right? So again, we need to check for any errors. So I'm just going to use this. Okay. Of course, we don't need to have a return here. Of course, we don't need to have a return here because that's the last line of the function, of the handler function method, and it would automatically leave. But let's just leave it. All right. So that's it. That's the only change we need to make. Create our template, and we execute our template. And of course, checking for errors all along. Okay, so let's try to run this to make sure that it works. So I'm gonna go run. All right, and let's open up our browser. Okay, we got that. So the URL is show. And there we have it. So we have a quote box, we have the quotes listed on ordered list. Okay, and then we have for each quote the author, which looks better than what we had previously. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. So again, we created a template. You learned about the, let's stop this. You learned about using the conditional to check to see that the data that was passed into the template actually has data. And of course, that will return either true or false. And assuming there is data, then we will do this range. All right. And the range, of course, will iterate over each element in the slice, which means it will iterate over each quotation. And after it iterates over each quotation, all we want from that quotation struct is the quote field and the author name and the author name field, since those are the only two things we want to display. And that's it. So that's it for this lesson. And I will see you in the next one, where we will start looking at the need for validating the form input. So we have not been checking to see if the form input is valid. However, we must always check to ensure that we have valid input to work with. I'll see you in that lesson.